Hey everyone, Road Breach here, and today we're taking a look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection Zord Ascension Project Mighty Morphin Dino Megazord. But before we take a look at this beautiful bot, I want to bring up a little anecdote about how I even got it. I bought this set from Mercari, mostly because I had a strange issue with my bank account. I believe I pre-ordered one from the Chosen Prime or TF source, but I could be second guessing myself. Did I pre-order this, or did I just want it that much that I thought I did so? I don't remember what happened, but I bought this one from Mercari after I sold the knockoff Orbitron Bruticus. So now, I have it here in my collection, and I'm going to talk about it. To reiterate, I love Power Rangers, but I hate the fact that many original Megazord toys had little to no articulation. So when it was announced that Hasbro bought the license for Power Rangers, I was pretty excited of the possibility of what they could do for the Megazord toys. They have experience making articulated combining robots several times over. The first result of Hasbro making the Dino Megazord was okay, but it definitely could have been way better. I actually tried to give the Megazord some knees, but they're kinda useless. But luckily, this wouldn't be the only time they tried to make a Dino Megazord, so they tried again, and the result is now on my table. So, enough running my mouth, let's talk about the box. The artwork all over the box looks gorgeous, and it gets better, because when you open it up, there's even more artwork on the inside. There's also a QR code you can scan to get some more info on the Megazord and the Rangers that pilot it. And each figure is packaged in tissue paper. Hasbro clearly put a lot of thought into this box, but enough of the box. Let's take a look at what we actually paid for. Starting with the T-Rex, this thing's proportions are very strange. Compare this to what we know the real animal looks like. We see that the arms are longer than they should be, the torso is too long, the head is too small, he has 3 fingers on each hand, and the legs are too human-like. This is accurate to the show, but it's not accurate to the real animal, at least from what we can speculate, that is. Though I say it's accurate when they did what Transformers is doing, where they take simple designs and douse them in mechanical detail that make them look more interesting. They must have brought some people from the Transformers team to design the Zords, because that's what it looks like they did. Here's Studio Series 86 Grimlock for comparison. Even though he's part of the Studio Series 86 subline, he's got plenty of detail over his body that makes him look more interesting, and the same is true for the T-Rex Zord. That's not to say it doesn't have any flaws though. The joints above the knees are too loose, and you can see the Megazord head if you move the T-Rex head up. One feature these Zords have that I like is opening cockpits. The T-Rex has one right here. It's unpainted, but it's not intrusive, and it adds an extra feature that makes it feel like it's high quality. As for articulation, head can move up and down, the mouth can open, arms can move out a little, they can move forward and back, elbow bend, ab crunch, waist swivel, legs can move forward, but backward movement is hindered, thigh swivel, double bend at the knee, and the foot can move up. Next up is the Mastodon, and this is where things start to feel like smaller parts of a larger whole. Don't get me wrong, it looks nice, and the detail is really good, but it also doesn't have much in terms of playability. I also found this piece of cardboard in between what will become the Megazord arms. In terms of accuracy to the real animal, pachyderms of any kind have longer legs than this, and the head looks like an amalgamation between an elephant and a mammoth. I mean, look at this and tell me they look alike. But it does in fact have an opening cockpit. For articulation, trunk can swivel, the front legs can move forward, but it's really hard to do so, and the back legs can move forward and back a little. Now onto the Triceratops. This thing is pretty much a tank with a face, but it does help that this tank with a face has some pretty good mechanical detail and panel lining. The paint is also pretty good, the tail especially. As for how it compares to the real animal, or as close as we can speculate about how the real thing might have looked, the body of the Zord is really long compared to the real Triceratops. I really like that the tail guns are better sculpted compared to the first one. One problem I have with this toy is that he has fake treads with no wheels. Come on, again? Hasbro, you've done this before. The latter is a combiner and the former is a triple-changing headmaster. I don't care that this thing is meant for older collectors. Seriously, what do companies have against making tank toys for adults mobile? As for the cockpit, it's under the middle horn. For articulation, the mouth can open, ball joint at the head, ball joint behind the neck, combination joint, hinge at the tail, and the guns can rotate. Now onto the saber-toothed tiger. The detail looks great, but I also feel like this thing needs some more paint on the neck. But the paint it does have is still good. In terms of accuracy to the real animal, it is slimmer than what I've seen this creature look like. One quality control problem I have on my copy is the loose tail cannon. Articulation includes an opening mouth, a ball joint at the head, combination joint, an unintentional ab joint, soft ratcheted rotation at the front legs, front knees can move forward and back, there's less range at the back legs and knees, and the loose tail cannon. Oh me, what's this I see? Why, it's a cockpit, mon ami! And finally, the Pterodactyl Zord. This design was never going to be made good no matter what you do. It's accurate to the show, but if you think that's a good thing, then you're clearly not paying attention. The Pterodactyl Zord is so obviously a chest plate, and there's not much you can do with it. It would look cool if you could get it in the air with a premium figure stand, but I don't have one strong enough to do that. The Mastodon was one thing, but this is way worse with how much it can't stand on its own. You can take the guns and slide them onto the back wings to act as feet, but I'm worried that it's going to scratch up the paint on them. As for articulation, hinge joint at the head, hinge joint at the neck, hinge at each wing, and a hinge joint that will be useful later. And just like everyone else, there's an opening cockpit here too. You also get these little miniature Ranger figures that are just one color. I think they might have cast each of these figures in red plastic and just painted over the others, which is kind of weird, and they really didn't have to do that. But back to what I actually paid for, just like last time, the individual Zords don't stand too well on their own. But the Transformer Siege mechanical detail across each Zord is a nice touch that I feel makes them feel more high quality, despite not being good on their own. But these things were meant to combine, so let's get into that. Yeah, the Dino tank still looks ridiculous. Adding Transformers Siege-style mechanical detail can only do so much to make it look any better. Two problems I had getting to this point was trying to get the Pterodactyl Zord to attach to the back, and the leg connectors being so tight that I needed pliers to get them out. The instructions don't give you a good idea on what to do to attach the Pterodactyl to the Mastodon feet, which is also pretty difficult to do. Besides that, let's move on to the Megazord. This beautiful bot has some presence. I love how all the detail on the Zords makes this Megazord look. The original design was already pretty good, but the panel lines and mechanical greebles make this robot very fun to look at. This even extends to the head, and that looks pretty good. You can even take off the faceplate to reveal the Ranger cockpit. I do like that it's printed on molded detailing, but the print quality isn't that good. Though I do like that it is an option. Though there are some details that I'm not too crazy about. The front of the pauldrons have translucent plastic that show off some detail underneath, while the back is just painted. I don't understand why they couldn't have just painted both sides. It would have been less costly, and it would have looked better as a result. The teeth on the chest also have this hexagonal pattern underneath, which I feel wasn't the best choice to make this look more visually interesting. The beehive pattern feels unnecessary, and it ends up making it look too busy as a result. I also don't like that the T-Rex calves don't lock in, and they can bend forward. I also don't like the fact that the hand covers don't go anywhere. If parts forming can be avoided, then avoid it like the plague, or at least do something with the extra parts. Combiner Wars Devastator did this fine, with the chest plate turning into a cannon and two swords, and the forearms turning into missile pods. I understand this isn't the same situation, but Hasbro, don't do this anymore for the rest of the toy line. Okay, as for accessories, you get the Mastodon shield that can peg into his hand, the power sword, and two optional hands. The sword is gorgeous. It's big, it's shiny, it looks great, it goes in his hand, and I'd love to have a sword like this. The hands are really difficult to swap. Luckily, the hands are made of gummy plastic, so you could heat these up with a hairdryer and make them go on easier. I know what pose these are supposed to be for, but they look very flamboyant when you have the arms down like this. Articulation is pretty good, but because of the nature of the robot design and how the Zords combine, there are some impeded joints here. I'm sure that some third-party company would be able to make this Megazord more posable while still being able to combine and making a screen-accurate Megazord, but you can get some decent poses out of it at least. I'm of two minds when it comes to taking off the tail for the waist rotation. I like that it is an elegant way to free up the waist, but it's also parts forming and you can't do anything with the tail. I do like that you can move the cannons forward, but I wish these could move 90 degrees. Here he is next to Hasbro's first Dino Megazord for comparison. I like that the Zap Megazord is bigger than the first one. It gives him more of a presence. He's a really good size in general, to be honest. Overall, this set is pretty good. The Zord Ascension Project Dino Megazord is a good toy. The Transformers Siege-style aesthetic is a welcome idea. It's a familiar design with many small details to make it look more grounded and cool. The articulation may not be as good as some Transformers figures, but the posability, small play features, and great packaging make Hasbro's original Megazord pretty much obsolete. Thanks for watching, and gotta zoom.